Hey everybody, it's Anna J. Walner with the Author Library, and with me today I have E Tearman, author of the Aces High, Jokers Wild series. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi everybody, I am actually one half of E Tearman. We are a writing duo. Unfortunately, my co-writer couldn't make it today, but she is the O in E Tearman. Her name's Olivia Wiley, and I am the E.S. Argentum. We have been writing together for probably close to a decade now, depending on when we start officially counting. And we've currently got 5 books out in the series, and in addition to writing, we're also both kind of quiet activists for mental health and social equity as well, and that also ties into the books a lot. So
Awesome. That is amazing. I'd love to discuss that further. O.E. Tearman, the duo, is the author of the cyberpunk series Aces High, Jokers Wild, and which follows Aiden in a futuristic society. What is the year that the books take place in?
2155, I believe, is the first year. It spans quite a while, the entire series. Like, I want to say 2155 is the first one. And the concept is that in those 100 some odd years, American society has completely fallen and been replaced by 7 corporations that now own everybody. And the series follows, like you said, Aiden, who's the new commander of this base of pretty much rebels within the rebel community. Like, they're rebels within the rebels. They're called the wild cards because they like to completely ignore the rules. And they're fighting to bring democracy back to America and create that social equity and a better society by, taking down the corporations and working together and rebuilding community.
So this has a little bit of socio-political layering within the book, more than just a thrilling series. There are multiple layers within it. I like that.
Mm-hmm. We actually started writing it around 2016, when everything was kind of looking really, really bleak.
Right.
And we wrote it partially to be a catharsis for us, and partially to kind of bring hope back, both for us and our communities, because that's really the one theme that follows through the entire book, is that hope and that found family and that community. Even though things are really, really awful, it doesn't mean they can't get better.
Very, very true in life and in everything.
Exactly.
And, I have those days too. Whenever I have to just remind myself tomorrow's a new day. There's always hope. So I've seen cyberpunk as a genre. I don't know that much about it, but it's always intrigued me because the covers are vibrant and futuristic looking, but it's still a bit of a mystery to me. Can you kind of explain what it is? It's a subgenre.
Yeah, it's a subgenre of science fiction.
Okay.
It's relatively new, kind of first really appeared in the 60s and 70s. Neuromancer was kind of the big first cyberpunk book.
Okay.
The general aesthetic is a combination of like really low grungy life with super high tech. So thinking like slums, but with, those flashy holographic ads and implants and things of that nature.
Okay.
So like popular examples are Blade Runner. I'm totally reading this off the Wikipedia, I'm sorry. Blade Runner, Altered Carbon, even The Matrix to some degree.
There you go. And the one Fifth Element, you know, really kind
Yeah,
of brings that feeling to me. So so I would say, yeah, sort of a futuristic society where we are exposed to
our
all of
lives are
this
kind of,
technology, but not
yeah, we're not being run by,
necessarily an affluent society.
right. Life is kind of awful, even with all of this technology. Um,
Dystopian meets futuristic
yeah,
technology.
that's what and what's interesting about our series, I mean, one of the interesting things I should say, is that we're not pure cyberpunk, because cyberpunk also tends to have this really nihilistic worldview
Okay.
attached to it, where just everything is terrible and it will stay terrible. And ours is set in the cyberpunk dystopia, but finding ways to make it better and finding ways to actually use the technology to improve lives and work on finding ways to make life better for everybody, not just a certain select few.
I think that's a great enduring message for the series. And there are five. Is this where Aiden's journey ends, or will there be a sixth book?
We're actually looking at 8 total,
Oh, wow.
um,
Okay.
and tossing around an idea for a sequel trilogy that'll be YA. So
Some
there's a lot of story. After the
awesome.
first 3
Awesome.
books, the focus does shift a little bit off of Aiden to the rest of the base, but he's still a key player for sure.
With such a cast of characters, there's always that potential for a kind of a spinoff for secondary or even tertiary characters to kind of tell their life story. So that's an awesome that's great, and it sounds like something that you guys are working towards. So has there ever been another genre that you've been tempted to write, or has cyberpunk always just had your heart?
Cyberpunk's a new thing for me, actually, me personally, actually, and for Olivia too. Um, we both also work on our own personal projects. Um, and in the personal realm, Olivia is an ethnobotanist. Um, she is like hardcore into the science and she writes nonfiction about
Oh, hey.
plants, the nature of plants, and things of that nature. And then my personal work is queer fantasy romance for the most part.
Oh, I love that. Awesome. So yeah, so this is a big so are you traditionally published or are you independently published?
The series is traditionally published through Amphibian Press.
Awesome.
We did originally self-publish and then got picked up by them. They are also represented by Creative Edge, actually. The author V.S. Holmes, who is another amazing sci-fi author, if you haven't read them.
No, not yet. I tend to, I don't know if you do the same thing, but when I'm writing, I don't always read a lot.
Yeah,
It just, I don't know why, but the two don't go together. I guess maybe because I'm reading my own stuff on repeat.
there's that, and there's like the weird unconscious fear of, oh no, I'm going to take this story and accidentally put it into my own.
Yeah.
So I totally get it. I do that too.
Or kind of pick up on the author's voice a little bit, the other author's voice. Yeah, no,
Or compare myself and stop writing altogether because I feel terrible. Yeah, no, I got it.
no, I just and you know, I feel like also I have so many characters and things up here in my head already. I don't have room for any more.
No, I
Like,
feel that. And there's always new ones coming, so you're just like, no, stop, please. Give me a break here.
well, so you mentioned the theme of mental health that's explored in the series as well, and being a big mental health advocate. I love that. I've had social anxiety and panic attacks ever since I was a kid, and I was
And
an
now you're
intern.
doing a podcast. That's
No,
amazing.
I was an introvert for so many years, and because socializing gave me extreme anxiety, the doctors couldn't figure it out. This was in the 80s, guys, the 80s. That I'm telling my age. I'm 40. I'm 40. So the doctors couldn't figure out what was the doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. They, and I felt guilty and wrong, and there was something, you know. So it wasn't until the 90s and even into the 2000s that we started seeing mental health be taken a little more seriously, and cognitive behavioral therapy and new medications that came out that would help. So I'm a very big advocate of mental health awareness,
Yeah,
having struggled with. So kudos.
that's one of the things that made us want to put it in the book, is both Olivia and I have our own neurodivergent issues. And one of the things that we were both really adamant from the start is, instead of just having, the trigger warnings and telling people, if you're struggling, go get help,
Right.
we actually have resources in the back of each book
Right.
that help with whatever is dealt with in the book. So we've got queer resources, we've got resources for depression and anxiety, PTSD, whatever happens in the book. If we can, we include resources for it, so that people
That
can,
is
if they go
amazing.
through it, they see this is me in this book, they can just flip to the back and contact any of the organizations that are
God, that
there,
gives
instead
me
of just
chills.
going, what now?
That gives me chills. Like, not only are you providing, a great read for people in an interesting series, but also education and help for people who need it. That's amazing. Amazingly awesome. Kudos for that. And being myself part of the LGBTQ plus community, there were times when those resources, especially growing up, would have been exceptionally helpful. And I think we're just lucky that we have authors like you, and supportive communities like Queer Indie, that help, really, the
Yeah,
community and the family that we
it's a
are,
really
because it is.
we're in a really strange place right now, because on the one hand, there's this huge, wonderful upswelling of resources and community, and on the other hand, there's
Right.
this really hardcore societal pushback. And so honestly, it's kind of humbling to be part of the community that's helping, and to be able to say, hey, here's a story. Actually, at a convention a couple of years ago, I think book 2 had just come out. We were talking with this young non-binary kid. I say young, like a teenager.
Right.
And telling them, hey, this is a
20
trans
something is
protagonist.
young to me,
I
kid.
know, I feel so old. And we were telling them about the book having a trans protagonist, but his journey isn't necessarily completely about his transness. Like, it
Right.
affects his character, it's part of his arc, but it's not his entire story. And this poor kid just like broke down sobbing, because they were so excited to see that representation on the page, and so I guess so
Wow.
thrilled to be able to see themselves in that story. And I'm like, I will never forget that experience, and how humbling that is as an author, to be able to say, I provided someone something that they had never seen before, and something that can change lives through
And
fiction.
yes, it can. And to build confidence, and just, even if it is a fictional character, say, I am, not alone, and I can see myself in this character, and the character is a protagonist, and the character is liked, and the character is, all of these things.
They're
I
not
think.
boiled down to their queer identity. It's not a coming
Yes.
out story.
Yes,
It's
yes,
not
yes,
a
yes, yes,
story
yes.
that's just about
Right.
Aiden being trans.
And it's just it's just a part of who they are as a person. So I think
Exactly.
that's awesome to see that and to realize that. So
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm
I'm
really
excited.
excited that stories like that now.
Guys, make sure that you check out the links in the description below for E Tearman's Amazon page, and so that you can find all of these great books. Stay tuned after you know how these videos go. All of the covers are at the end, and they are fantastic. So stick around and watch all of the covers. And I just have one more question for you. On this crazy journey as an author, what is a piece of advice that you would give yourself in the beginning that you know now?
I think the biggest thing for me is to remember that no advice is one size fits all. And
I
there's
love
no
it.
reason to feel guilty or shame or any of those bad feelings about not being able to write every day or not being able to put things out in a particular time frame. It's okay to work to what your brain and your body need. And a lot of writing advice doesn't talk about that, and it's so important. So chill
And
out.
that's
It's okay.
and that's a mental health aspect, because as authors, you do see a lot of people saying, I wrote 40,000 words today. And you're sitting here saying, I wrote 1,259. And that's
I
okay. That is okay.
Terry Pratchett, an extraordinarily prolific fantasy author, wrote 300 words a day. That's it.
It's all
So
about, yeah. And some, you know, I know some people are like, you know, you have to put out this many books a year in order to be successful. That's not
yeah,
always the case. There's always, just realize that, like, you know, like you said, it's not all one, it's not one size fits all advice. What works for one author, what works for me is not going to work for you, and it's not going to
what
work
works
for
for you
you
now, what works for you now isn't going to work for you necessarily
in the
when you're
future.
extremely stressed or when you
Right.
feel better. And that's the other thing, because like this last year in particular, I've been really, really hard on myself because I haven't been very productive. And I have to remind myself, oh yeah, it's because you've been dealing with a year of trauma, a year of constant trauma. It's okay to take a break.
And I was just talking with a friend about this today. You know, I'm in a little bit of a trough, a creative trough,
I
and
think a lot.
I hate myself. I don't call it a writer's block. I call it a trough, because it's just like any wave and trough. You know, that creative swell will start to rise, and then, you know, you ride it for as long as you can. And
I
so,
like
but
that
I've
a lot.
been really down, because I'm like, have I lost it? Is it gone? And then,
I that all week, and by all week I mean for quite a while. Um,
and she reminded me today. She was like, Anna, you are being too hard on yourself. Stop it. And she's one of those kind of friends that's like mean to me in a nice way. She's like, stop
yeah,
that. Stop it. And I'm like, okay. Because sometimes I need someone to remind me to stop being so hard on myself.
I think we all do.
We all do. Yeah, jinx.
So, reminder to everyone watching this, stop
Yes.
being so hard on yourself. It's
Yes.
okay.
Yes. Everyone, not just authors, but everyone, moms, dads, people who, you know, who sit at home, work from home, you know, right now.
Anyone
It's
and everyone. Yeah.
everyone in the world right now is stressed. And it's okay to say, I'm having a bad day today, and just take some mental health time for yourself, because that's important.
It really is.
So, thank you so much for coming on today, for spreading
Thank you
this,
for having us.
for talking about the amazing books, guys. Definitely check them out. and also spreading some awesome positivity that whether you knew it or not, I needed today. So,
Oh, I'm glad I could help.
Well, thank you, really. And for everybody else, if you haven't already, please subscribe. Make sure that you subscribe so that you can get notifications when a new video is uploaded, because we're going to have a lot more guests in the near future and you don't want to miss out. But for now, everyone, stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you again here soon. Thanks again.
Thanks.